Okay, and then Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Um, I really, really do love Civil War and a bunch of the other stuff we've gotten in Phase 3, and I'm really excited for Black Panther, but it's really hard to top just how damn good I think Captain America, the Winter Soldier is. I talked about it in the last video, but like, the Phase 2 films have a lot going on underneath them. Social commentary, a little deeper commentary wise. Winter Soldier is the most apparent, where in Captain America straight quotes Edward Snowden at a certain point, and it has a lot to do with surveillance culture. Um, I'm really really love the Nolan Batman films, and I do think that they are some of the best superhero movies ever made. But they are very much on the nose. They straight spell out the message for you, and this doesn't as much. Like it definitely gives you exactly what it wants you to get from it. It gives you the intended message, but it doesn't hold your hand as much, and it doesn't lecture as much, which is something I really appreciate about it. So it's definitely more mainstream, and it's still got a very important message, which is something I appreciate. As far as Captain America as a character in this, one of the things I was always disappointed about with the first Captain America film is that it seemed like it was going to be a war movie from all the marketing and advertising, but then what we got was more of a character-focused film. This is a great blend of both of those things. It is the spy thriller that you were promised by the marketing, and that it clearly intends to be, but it also has a great character progression for Captain America finding his place in the modern day, and I think that's really great as the voice of reason in an era of fear, if you will. Um, so I really appreciate that about this film. I will say overall, cohesively talking about the universe, the Phase Two films do something that the Phase Ones didn't, but not stuff that the Phase Three films do. So let me get into that. I think the main goal with the Phase One films was just to get the shit down, get it done, and get a universe built movie, i.e., Avengers. Um, and then Phase Two's goal was to round out that universe and make it feel like there's still stories left to tell now that we've had our big, Avengers sized cake. Um, but Phase 2 suffers from something that I don't feel is as prevalent by the time we get to Phase 1, because now, so far I've talked about Iron Man 3, Thor 2, and now Captain America 2. And in all three of those movies, we have a couple similar plot elements. The most prevalent and obvious one being faking out a character death. And that's something I'll get into again when we get to the next film, which is Guardians of the Galaxy. But so Phase 2 has a lot more to round out the universe and make it feel more feel like there are still stories left to tell. But it starts to lean on a lot of very similar plot elements, and that gets manipulative at times. And it's interesting to talk about in retrospect, because I know this gets better in the Phase 3 films. Um, the problem I have with the idea of, like, just killing off characters left and right and then bringing them back is it just feels emotionally manipulative. And the other problem that, like, kind of comes up in these movies, I'll give Thor: The Dark World, just because that seems relatively last minute, and Thor doesn't really have, like, a cell phone or an email, as we found out in Ragnarok. Um, but Iron Man 3 takes place over a pretty significant period of time, it seems, at least a couple days, that I don't know why Captain America and everyone else isn't involved in it. Same for this one. Like, I don't understand why they don't go to Tony Stark, why they go to Falcon. I like Falcon, and obviously he's a Captain America character and he should matter the most, but still, it's just one of those things. So they have a hard time making it feel like it feels like a universe. They have a hard time making it feel super interconnected, because, like, these other characters should be showing up, and that's something we solve by the time we get to Phase 3. Um, but here it is a little bit head scratchy, though I do think if you really look for it, there are justifications. You know, the whole idea of Nick Fury tells him don't trust anyone, and he doesn't know who he can go to. I'd still say that's a bit of a weak argument. Post-credit scene. That's a bit of a weak argument, but it's acceptable. It's an out. I'd also say that like the thing that I've heard that I know I've brought up and I've heard brought up in the past is it seems like a bit of a continuity error with Bucky when he gets turned into the Winter Soldier. And that's certainly, I think, a fair point. I know I've heard people say, "Oh, it's like unreliable narrator. It's so muddy and out of context that you can't take the sequence of events as shown literally." And like maybe, but it's still a little confusing because the whole point of that scene is to provide you with some kind of context and answers, and it does, but it steps on continuity to do it. Ultimately, though, Captain America: The Winter Soldier just does so much right. It is damn near a perfect film, in my mind, and so I have a hard time holding any of the problems I have against it because it just works so well. It does so much else just perfectly, you know? So that'll do it for Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Next will be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. See you there.